Hello everyone, this is Vipin Sharma and I am a legal faculty in CLAT Prep Institute. So in today's video, we will be discussing about collegium system and NJAC dispute. What is collegium system? What is NJAC dispute? I would be discussing all the questions around the topic and what is the controversy over the topic we will be discussing in this video. First thing which we need to understand is what is the procedure to appoint the judges of the Supreme Court of the or the High Court of the various states, right? So Article 124 of the Indian Constitution deals with the appointment of judges to the Supreme Court of India. So first we need to understand who is the appointing authority here. President of India need to have consultation with Chief Justice of the India, right? So the question is whether the president is bound with the advice given by the CJI. That is the dispute. So in 1981, for the first time, in 1981, it was stated that the consultation given by the CJI to the president is not binding on the president, right? And eventually, in 1993, the collegium system was developed. So who is the member of collegium system? The 5 judges of the Supreme Court are the member of collegium. One is CJI, who is the head of the collegium system. 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court are the member of collegium system. So what do we understand by this senior most term? Let's say if a person is of 55 age and if a person is 65 year of age. If this person elevates to Supreme Court before this person of 65 years age, then he would be considered as a senior most judge. So the 4 senior most judges apart from CJI are the member of collegium. The collegium recommends judges name to the Ministry of Law and Justice, and the Ministry of Law and Justice forwards the name to the President of India, and ultimately President of India recommends the name of the judge and elevate the person as a judge of the Supreme Court or the High Court of the respective state, right? Most important thing about this dispute, the collegium system has no backing of the Constitution of India. It is nowhere mentioned in the Constitution of India. It is nowhere mentioned in any other law of the country. So the dispute is about the recommendation given by the collegium to the President of India, right? Let's understand this topic further. Now we will understand the evolution of the collegium system. In the first judge's case in 1981, as I discussed earlier in this video, the dispute whether the advice rendered by the CJI to the President of India in the matter of appointment of judges of Supreme Court or High Court is binding on the President. In 1981, the Supreme Court held that the consultation taken by the President from the CJI is not binding. Therefore, the President can reject the name suggested by CJI if there are particular reasons for that, right? But in 1993, Supreme Court reversed its earlier ruling and said consultation taken by the President of India from the CJI is binding in nature. Therefore, the name suggested by the CJI are binding on the President of India, right? In this particular case, two important things also held. First, the consultation of 2 senior most judges along with CJI, which means the collegium was evolved and 3 members were made the member of the collegium. One is CJI and 2 senior most judges. First thing. Second thing is that it was in this particular case, it was stated that the senior most judge would be made the CJI all the time as a matter of rule. Because till 1973, it was a basic convention between the government and the judiciary that the senior most judge would be appointed as a Chief Justice of India. However, in 1973, the convention was broken when Mr. A. K. Rai was appointed as a CGI after superseding 3 senior most judges. Eventually, since there was no binding law on the executive to appoint senior most person as a CGI of this country, right? Eventually, in 1998, the collegium system was made broader. It was in this particular case, it was stated that the collegium would consist of 5 judges, which means 1 CGI and the 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court. We are following this conventional method, which was evolved by these 3 judgments, right? So let's proceed further. Time and again, we have seen the collegium system has been criticized by the various legal scholars. Currently, the law minister has been continuously attacking the system. There are certain reasons behind that. One, there is no transparency. Who has been appointed, whose name has been recommended, has never been evolved, or the name has never been given to the public, right? There is scope for nepotism. There is high chances that a person, if I am going to recommend someone as a judge of the Supreme Court, there are chances that I am going to recommend my relative, and so this lacks transparency in the system. So this has been attacked because of these reasons, various reasons. There are other reasons like junior advocates have been, junior judges of the High Court or the junior advocates of the Supreme Courts have been neglected time and again. We have seen that till now no female has been made the CGI of this country. So the collegium system has been time and again under criticism. Let's move further. So to get rid from the system of collegium, the government enacted 99th constitutional amendment in 2014. 99th amendment in 2014, right? The NJAC, National Judicial Appointment Commission, was enacted by the 99th Amendment 2014. The NJAC, like collegium, also recommends the judges of the Supreme Court to the President of India. Let's understand who are the members of the NJAC. First, your CJI, he would be the head of NJAC. Then 2 senior most judges of the Supreme Court. Then the Law Minister of India will also be a member. Then 2 eminent person. These 2 eminent person would be recommended by a panel consisting of CJI, Prime Minister of India, and the leader of opposition in Lok Sabha. If there is no leader of opposition in Lok Sabha, then the leader of the largest opposition party would be a part of that committee. But in 2015, in the sequence of those 3 judges, Supreme Court upheld this judgment as a unconstitutional, and ultimately in the 4th judge's case, the system of collegium was also revived. So currently, if we note, then we are following the collegium system. When collegium recommends name to the president, the government hold an secret inquiry by the secret investigating agencies. If there are certain coherent reasons, then only the name can be rejected. The communication between CJI or the collegium and the law ministry are very, very secretive. But for the first time in the country, the communication has been revealed by the collegium system. So these 3 persons were appointed judges of the different high court. One is S. Sundaresan. What central government replied that he has expressed his views with respect to the pending judgments, pending cases before different courts, but the collegium said it's a part of Article 19. So if I'm criticizing a particular court, if I'm criticizing someone, which is a right given by the Indian Constitution under Article 19, it can never be a reason to reject my candidature. Secondly, Saurabh Kripal, he was elevated to the Delhi High Court, but his name was also withheld by the government with the view that he is a gay and his partner is a Swiss national. So the government expressed that he might be very critical or he might be inclined towards a particular community, but the collegium said that sexual orientation is a part of Article 21, which has been held by the Supreme Court, and if your sexual orientation can never be a ground to reject your candidature, right? And similarly, third person, John Satyam, he was elevated to Madras High Court. For this, center stated that he was very critical to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, right? So the collegium said sharing an article and criticizing the Prime Minister who is accountable to the citizen of India can never be a ground to reject the candidature of a person. Ultimately, this is a part of your Article 19, this is a part of Article 21, this is also a part of Article 19. So if you are enjoying your fundamental rights, these three grounds can never be a ground for your rejection of your candidature. This was said by the collegium, right? Let's move further. Continuing with the discussion, let's understand Mr. Honorable Vice President disagrees with the basic structure doctrine. What is basic structure doctrine, which was evolved in the landmark judgment of Keshwananda Bharti versus State of Kerala in 1973? So under Article 368 of the Indian Constitution, the Parliament has power to bring certain amendment in the Indian Constitution, right? But Supreme Court in 1973 held that there are certain proportions, there are certain things which cannot be amended by the Parliament, and those things which cannot be amended are called part of the basic structure, right? Let's understand how the basic structure was evolved in our constitutional jurisprudence. Let's understand what forms a part of the basic structure of the Constitution. Okay, first, before understanding the basic structure, we need to understand the separation of power. Article 50 of the Indian Constitution states separation of power between judiciary and executive. So the legislature is there to enact the law, right? And the executive is there to enact the same or to execute the same law, right? If there is a conflict of the same law with the fundamental rights of the citizen, then there is judiciary to interpret the same law. So the doctrine of separation of power separates the power of these three organs. So if one particular organ is sitting on the bench or sitting on the wheel of another organ, then it would lead to a tussle between these three important organs of the Indian Constitution. So we need to have check and balance of power between all of three. So the topic of the basic structure will continuously revolve around the same power, right? Let's understand this further. Okay, let's understand now how the basic structure was evolved. As I said earlier, under Article 368, the Parliament can bring an amendment. The same amendment on the first time was brought in 1951. And when the same amendment was challenged before the Supreme Court held that the Parliament has unlimited power to amend the fundamental rights of the citizens, right? But eventually this leads to a dispute in the case of Golaknath versus State of Punjab. There was a dispute that the land of a particular person was taken by the government, and government said we have power to limit your fundamental right, so we are curtailing your fundamental right to hold or acquire the property. So this lead to a dispute in the matter of Golaknath versus State of Punjab. And in 1967, Supreme Court held that the Parliament cannot amend or bring a change in the fundamental rights of the constitution. Right? So these two judgments were contrary to each other. Firstly, Supreme Court held that the Parliament has unrestricted power to bring an amendment in the fundamental rights, part 3 of the Indian Constitution. But in 1967, in the case of Golaknath versus State of Punjab, it was held that the Parliament cannot bring an amendment in the fundamental rights or the part 3 of the Indian Constitution. However, the government was unsatisfied or unhappy with the ruling, and in order to change the ruling, government brought another amendment in the year of 1971. Through the 24th Amendment 1971, it was stated that the Parliament has unrestricted power to bring a change in the Constitution of India, which includes part 3 of the Constitution of India. So basically, we have understood that the first judgment was reversed by the second judgment, and the Golaknath ruling was reversed by the 24th Amendment 1971. Now, this amendment was challenged in the Keshwananda Bharti versus State of Kerala. Right? So, in the Keshwananda Bharti versus State of Kerala, three judges sat together, and by the ruling of 7/6, it was stated that the Parliament has a right to bring an amendment in the Indian Constitution, but there are certain things which cannot be amended or changed by the Constitution, cannot be changed in the Indian Constitution by the Parliament. These things which we broadly understand: the separation of power, the judicial review, rule of law, secular nature of the country, sovereignty of the country, election commission of India. So let's say if government comes with an amendment that there would be no election from next year. So this amendment cannot be brought by the government because it will ultimately violate the basic structure of the country. The basic structure has not been defined by the Supreme Court. It has been defined time and again by the various judgments, right? So government has a power to bring an amendment. However, there are certain things which cannot be amended. And the things which cannot be amended are called part of your basic structure. The Supreme Court has a power to consider a particular matter as a part of basic structure. For this particular reason, the Honorable Vice President of India has disagreed with this proportion because according to him, this violates the principle of separation of power, because it is the Parliament who understands the need of its people and they must be given exclusive right to bring an amendment in the Indian Constitution. We are done with these two topics. I hope we are clear with all the two topics we discussed today. आप लोगों को ये वीडियो कैसा लगा कमेंट सेक्शन में जरूर बताएं, और आपके क्या व्यूज हैं इन दोनों टॉपिक्स पे आप कमेंट सेक्शन में जरूर बताएं. थैंक यू सो मच. नेक्स्ट वीक मिलते हैं अगले टॉपिक के साथ.